Everybody, thanks for watching. And just a quick reminder that the Powers That Came to Be is now available, as well as 2022. Today will be the last day. In fact, a few more hours, the time will be up for you guys to purchase it for $8.99 plus tax. So this will be the last chance you can get it for this price. It will go back to regular price after this. So make sure you guys take advantage as well. Merkabah catalog will also be ending in a few hours. Make sure you guys take advantage of this as well. So I want to get into this video. February 1st, people are already posting Black History Month stuff up. So a lot of questions always come up with, the Bible, biblical religion. And it's a lot of things people don't realize when it comes to just understanding how important it is that we, really pay attention to critical race theory and why getting rid of, just a little bit of Black history that's out is important. So we don't know how far this whole thing is going to go with critical race theory. Are they going to continue to teach Black history? So what will Black History Month entail? Will they just get rid of it, from the schools entirely, and we'll just see little things on TV here and there? Besides obvious reasons why, history is important, the history that's being told, and ask ourselves if that's history that we want to, we want our kids to understand. We understand about slavery and Jim Crow and Dr. King and so on and so forth. We are not being shown that. It's not something that we're seeing, mainstream. So what we get for our main television programming is, BMF, stuff like that, which is content that you don't really want your kids to see. So the reason why we're having so many people having to struggle, Black folks, between, being true to themselves and being true to what's being shown mainstream, is because what's being shown mainstream that is Black, a lot of people don't want to deal with that. A lot of people don't want to, deal with Black people selling drugs, killing each other, so on and so forth. That's all they're showing us. We want to see real history. What did we do besides this? Is our history only slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights, killing each other? And that's a big thing. And it's one of the reasons why Christians shy away from the truth. They believe that we are savages. I have had many talks with Black Christians who just think we ain't did nothing because they haven't seen anything. They don't know about the real history of this country. They don't understand what's been taken away from us and used to give us what we see today. And that the people who are in charge of, allowing certain movies or TV shows to be aired are the very people who don't want you to understand, your history, who you are, and the truth. So we don't get movies about the kingdoms in Africa. We don't get movies about what really happened. We don't get movies about the revolt in Denmark. Talked about this in Powers That Be, about the Queen, and call herself Queen Mary, and she led basically a revolt against, what was happening in Denmark with, slavery and everything. But this is something that triggered people looking into the history of, Europe and those countries and the Black royal families and so on and so forth. And I talked about in the video as well how we had Black royal families in, Europe that was basically, married into and taken over eventually. So it's a lot more into this stuff, but this is the history that we're not going to see. This is the history that they want to hide, because of course, if you're going to accept a history that's being told to you by the same people that enslaved you, that has oppressed you, then you're going to accept the lie. And this is what people are believing right now, is these lies. This is what we get. And then we, as conscious people, we have to argue with our own people. I'm constantly arguing with my own people to accept the truth about themselves and to accept something that makes them look, sophisticated, intelligent. They want to accept something that makes them look weak. And the Bible teaches us to basically accept mediocrity, to accept poverty, to be proud of being poor. And the very people that gave us the book, the richest people on the planet. So that's one of the things this video is about, and getting people to understand how this came about and the history behind it. Now, everybody knows, well, obviously everybody don't know how we got the Bible. So more learned Christians will tell you, we already had the Bible before slavery. We had it in Ethiopia. What they don't understand is that even with the Abba Bible, because that's the Bible that we got in Ethiopia that was given to us by Abba, who was a Byzantine royal white man who spoke Ge'ez and wrote Ge'ez and translated the Ethiopian Bible, which bears his name, translated it from a Greek Bible. So it still comes from Greek. And we get this book, and they basically adopted the monastery in Ethiopia, and the book still is there to this day. But we have to understand where it came from and understand the history of that area and what was going on with Rome coming in there and stealing stuff and leaving with artifacts. You can go into the Aksum Empire and you'll see that they had Christian stuff there as well. But you got to understand what happened with the Aksum Empire and with Haile Selassie and the Romans. And the Romans came and stole stuff, and they came and took, and they came and tried to force Christianity to get people to convert. And this is something that they have been doing for a long time. So even when you go back and you look at the Black royal families, look at this time period, there was this revolt, there was this changing, and it was something that was, orchestrated by Rome, of course. So you had everybody convert to Christianity, Islam as well, which was used to basically get people to convert into Christianity, because if you dig into the history, you'll see that, Islam was considered this Arab barbaric religion that stole from Christianity, which they don't get into this stuff right now. And it's more like peace stamp, but really the history behind it shows what it was. And of course, white folks in Europe wanted to basically be on the side of Rome, and they felt like the Crusades was just, and that Rome was going out to basically claim the land or, set things in motion before the Arabs did. Because you have to remember, we had a whole Arab invasion. Everybody knew about this. People were scared to death. And if you're not thinking about the times back then and doing the research, you're not going to understand why this makes sense. If you have these people going around killing, pillaging, and you create this false narrative about them, if you're not Christian, it's going to be a problem. It's a fight for our souls, and this is how they made it to be. So people were converting. So you had the people being loyal to Christianity. And if you were in trade, this is who they wanted you to trade with. Are they going to trade with the Muslims? Are they going to trade with the Christians? There's more Christians trading. We need you to trade with the Christians, and your kingdom needs to be Christian, because nobody's going to want to come in there and trade with you and make you money. If it's not, people are going to be scared. So people are under this notion that Africa, we had the Bible for all time since the beginning. And that's just not true. So again, give you guys the history of how this came about, and everything always starts with the Greeks, because you have to just do simple math and understand around this time frame the Greeks were ruling. And that's the Old Testament. We get the Old Testament. And then, or the Torah, or the Pentateuch, whatever you want to call it. So Greeks ruling, right? Rome comes, conquers the Greeks. Shortly after, we get what? Christianity. And then Christianity, basically under Rome, they continue Hellenization, which was the spreading of this doctrine and teaching. Then we get Christianity, and they continue Hellenization, or continue this pushing of this doctrine that begins with the Greeks. It's clear, it's obvious what happened, and how people can't put this together is crazy. But if you understand history, then you get it. You understand what took place. And then you look at, further history and understand that, of course, ancient Egypt was black. And as I talk about, they were conquered. These are the people who were considered the first Jews. And if you go back during that time, when you do real deep research and look, this is why we find all of those, the Black Madonna, the portraits of black saints and black bishops and so on and so forth throughout Rome, because it was black land, black territory. We know about the Etruscans, or the Etruscans, however you want to pronounce it, and their rule and what happened, how, they was overthrown. So the history is there, but we didn't get this Bible because we were just the original people, the original Jews, and we got it straight from, Moses and the Levites or what have you. This was basically forced on us. It was given to us. You had indoctrination through generational indoctrination to where the kids were taught this and they was grown up or grew up to preach it, to teach it. And people set out to teach this word that were black until the Crusades. The Crusades is basically like execute Order 66, plain and simple. And when you understand this, when you do the history, you know what happened. You can see it. It was just like Star Wars. Execute Order 66, where you had basically the Moors. You had these black saints and Christians going out teaching the word. And then when the Crusades was put together, they used their Arab powers, the people who were basically made Muslim. And it's a different type of Islam back then. But you had most of them, when I showed you guys this, how you had Arabs in the Knights Templar. You had Arabs in fighting the Crusades, because that's who did the dirty work for Rome, just like they're still using them to this day, the powers that be. But it was execute Order 66, and they went out, killed the real Moors, killed the black, bishops and people who had temples, and it just destroyed everything and got rid of all knowledge and history that it was us. Plain and simple. Then everything switched over and you start seeing the white Jesus and so on and so forth. So if you don't do history, traveled all over the world, I've been to every country in the Bible. If you don't look at this stuff, you don't read books and don't buy books that cost hundreds of dollars that have a lot of information in it, you're not going to get the story. You're going to get out what's been put out there and regurgitated over and over again to give you a false understanding. And this is what has happened to so many people. Now, it gets frustrating, of course, when you try to talk to Christians and talk to people about this history and about this information. They don't want to hear it. People generally don't accept any information unless it comes from their local news media. If it's not trending, if the news is not talking about it, they're not going to be accepting of it because they've been trained to, accept what's been put out. So, I always tell people, you can show people my channel, but I like for people to find my channel. For people who find this information, it's people who are looking for it. If they're not looking for it, they probably don't want it. Now, it's people who you run into, you have conversations with, and then if you're knowledgeable, you start talking to them and putting out this information, and they just be blown away and they want to know more. So it's good to speak to people sometimes, but if a person is not, asking questions, they don't seem engaged in this type of information, they probably don't want it. They want to stick to what's popular and what they've been raised to believe about Christianity. But in fact, the truth is exactly what we say it is. So most Christians don't fathom, we got the Bible during slavery. Before that, we got it because they needed to teach it to our people so they could infiltrate our land and find out what resources was there so they can take it. Look in Africa, people. This is not something that we make up. How is it that in developed parts of Africa, we don't own, the major resources, but it's being siphoned and the country is being milked of its resources by Europeans and now by the, Chinese and Asian companies. So this has been happening since the beginning. So they came in and gave us religion and we know what happened. But you just go and look and see who's there, what's going on, what's taking place, and how these people, ever since they started putting out and teaching the Bible, have not followed the Bible themselves. One of the reasons why, you look into the Bible and remember, Moses comes down and gives them the law and don't worship any other gods. They broke that. The main thing is how the Bible says thou shalt not kill or steal, and he gives them these commandments. Then God commands them to go do that very thing, and they go out and kill and steal. So if you following this, and if you believe in this story and this information, then you look past the fact that the, Greeks, the Romans, the people who are responsible for giving us biblical religion, did everything against the Bible. They went out and they stole, they raped, they pillaged, they killed, so on and so forth. And people believing that they're somehow on this spiritual journey to cleanse the world of some type of evil that was here and to put in place God's kingdom or to set up for God's kingdom to come. and it's all prophesied and holy and so on and so forth. And it's bullshit. So when you have Deuteronomy 28 talking about how we're not going to own anything, how so much is going to happen, to the Jews if they don't obey God, the whole Deuteronomy 28 curse. But it says, Deuteronomy 28:43, foreigners who live in your land will gain more and more power, while you gradually lose yours. They will have money to lend you, but you will have none to lend them. In the end, they will be your rulers. And it basically goes on to talk about all the disasters and everything that will befall them because they did not obey the Lord and keep all the laws that he gave them. So to many people, mainly the Black Hebrews, this was a prophecy come true because we look at what happened. They were strangers in our land. We let them in, took care of them. Then they gained power, and then they eventually took over, and then now they basically are rulers. So, of course, you're looking at this and you're saying, well, damn, the Black Hebrews are right. But what they did was tell you their plan and lay out a plan that they knew was going to happen because they know stuff that we don't. And they knew once they destabilized certain kingdoms and got rid of certain kingdoms, remember, when these people got their hands on the gun and cannon, we stood no chance. Plain and simple, they couldn't beat us hand to hand. They got guns and cannons. They couldn't really take us over before, it was conquest. You had to win by numbers. If you had the numbers, you could win. It was just, that simple. Numbers and then strategy. And that wasn't even enough because we just fled into, different part of Africa, got the numbers that was more than them and just stayed there. But we fled the land that they wanted. And that was the main thing. So they was able to take control of those lands. But it's not a prophecy come true. It's something they wrote down and it fulfilled it basically. But the thing is, people can't fathom that it could be possibly the same people. How is it a plan that they're going to follow? And this was supposedly written over 2,000 years ago. And that's something we get into in other videos. But you got to look at it. It's exactly what they did. And it's no different from when you look at the Amorites and the Girgashites and the Hivites and the Perizzites and the Jebusites or what have you, and all of these tribes that was wiped out by the Israelites. It's no different from that. Saying you go in there, I give you this land as an inheritance. How is an inheritance when it already belongs to somebody else before these people even came about? I give you this land. All you got to do is go in and kill the people and take it. So how is God, who's supposed to create everything, the world, promising his people a land and not just giving it to them, but rather go out and slaughter and kill people who supposedly he created as well and take their land? And there is no Bible at this time. There is no, he's worshiping other gods. They don't know you are God. If you are truly the God of all, just tell the people, and I'm pretty sure they'll leave the land and give them the land peacefully. So as I talk about in the DVD, you have to understand what that means when it's saying, I am the Lord, your God, the God of Israel. Set apart. You people are set apart from everybody else. How is that when he's supposed to be the God of all, but these people are different? Then when you go and trace these tribes back, they go back to Ham, who's supposedly, where the African race comes from. So it's telling you esoterically in code that these Greeks, who the Israelites basically are the Greeks, what they're telling you, they went out and took over African territory. So again, regular common Christian has no clue. Doesn't understand this, doesn't understand esoteric, doesn't understand parables, doesn't understand allegories. They think the book is real and they read the book and, pray to this God as if this stuff was true. And it's tough to break down, but it's common sense on the part that when you go into history and we look, we was enslaved, they taught us biblical religion, and we had it since. And they drilled it into us. They burned it into us. It seemed like, the right thing to do when you wanted to show you was a peaceful people. And what brought people together, it's supposed to be a Christian person, then being Christian, being, religious, being in the church, you would hope you would get sympathy from another Christian. When the KKK showed us, those white folks who lynched us and hung us from trees showed us, these people were Christians. That should have showed you right there, even after slavery, us praying, we got no relief. Even after hundreds of years of slavery, we got free and they still, lynch and tortured us and killed us and so on and so forth. So Black history, you know, what they're showing us is nowhere near Black history. It's orchestrated history by the powers that be. It's stuff that was put in place to bring about the change that has occurred, to bring about where we are right now. And it's their agenda. Our real history lies in Africa. It lies in Kemet, Egypt. It lies in the kingdoms in Africa and the wars that were fought that are not being talked about, and movies are not being made about it, because the people who did this to us run the industry. And this is what we keep forgetting. We're not going to see what we think we're going to see, because nobody is putting out that kind of information, you know, besides books, which they know you won't read. And people like us who do YouTube videos and talk about history that people don't watch or really accept. So what is the point? You know, we now, people just want to say they're conscious to say they're conscious and try to post something cool or inspirational on social media to get a lot of likes, but they're not really about the knowledge. They're not about this information. They're not about teaching it to their kids. It's going to go away. And that's part of the agenda of this whole, you know, critical race theory, for it to go away. But then who are the Black kids going to look up to? They're going to look up to, you know, BMF. They're going to look up to, you know, Lil Baby, the rappers. Who are they going to look up to that look like them for something inspirational, powerful? Not basketball stars, athletes, actors, and actresses, and so on and so forth, which entertainment, that's what we have been doing. You want to be famous, you want to be somebody, be their entertainment, because we don't see ourselves in anywhere else. There's no lawyer shows for us, doctor shows for us. Television shows are basically gone that showed us in a good light. Who are our Black kids going to look up to when this is all gone to say, I want to be like him, other than white folks? I've literally had seemingly intelligent Black folks look me in the face and say, we ain't never did shit as Black people. We never did nothing, you know, not understanding what happened to us. Because you look back, what do we have to show? And then if you don't understand what happened in Africa and how everything was taken over and how not that long ago, it was just a complete flip-flop. We had African kings, Black kings in Europe. We were ruling. Then, like I said, boom, it's this turnaround. Because when you go back in history, you start looking at stops. You try to find these royal families that exist today, their lineage, before the Crusades, and you can't find them. You know, you can't find them. We understand what was happening in Rome, the wars there. But as far as, you know, Europe, you get into England and Ireland, the places where we know we was at, where we can prove we were. A lot of those other territories, as I told you, when you go up and you start getting towards Russia and all those countries in between, Serbia, the Ukraine, and all these other countries where, you know, Germany, of course, where I showed you guys in the video, where we know it's not a coincidence they had statues of the Moors and everything that they were showing us about, you know, the Moors and the Moorish kings. These people were kings. They ruled. They stabbed us in the back, but we were there. And it wasn't supposed to be the way it was. It was like, okay, we're ruling already. We're going to show you how to go and rule in your land and create something for yourself. And then maybe we can trade with each other. They couldn't fathom the black-white thing would be as big as it is today. But we can go and look and see the stuff. As I talked about in the DVD, the reason why Princess of Kent wore the Moorish brooch, because she knows her history. She understands that they stole this kingdom from the Moors. Everybody thought it was some racist stuff, which kind of sort of is. But as I talked about, you know, these people weren't servants. They try to say the black Moors or the Moors were servants, and servants don't wear diamonds and rubies and jewels. And you don't see the paintings, most of the paintings still exist, but you don't see many of the information out about them being an actual royal family that existed. So we know what happened. You know, they were taken out. It was swift. And if you catch a people off guard, you're going to win, especially a people who can't fathom what you're trying to do on the scale that you're going to do it on. Nobody could fathom that you're in power and you're helping the people out. marrying them into your family. We're family now. We're blood now. Everything is fine and cool. And then execute Order 66. They're gone. They're enslaved. They're killed. Mass graves are buried that we're not ever going to find probably. And these people are burnt up. And same thing what's supposed to happen with the Holocaust. Same type situation. Big change in power. And this is what happened. But it don't have to be a major change throughout a kingdom just at the top. King is gone. Queen is gone. The corresponding people below is changed. You know, these are the people who make the laws for this kingdom. Then they can just change the laws. People who talk or say something or have a problem, they're taken out. It's not that hard to do it, to do what they've done. When you understand the history, you can look and you can see what happened. But the Bible is rooted in all of this. And a book that tells you to love your enemies had to be written by your enemies. A book that tells you that you should obey, your earthly masters, the slave master, as you would your God, just equated itself to God. So obey Ephesians 6:5, slaves obey your earthly masters as you would obey Christ, so on and so forth. You guys know, come on, it's common sense. But you'll understand in this whole information about, the Bible and dealing with people who don't want to trust the information. It's not about the information. It's not about them even being religious, because we both know damn well, we all know damn well, these people are not religious. They're not following the Bible. They're not living by it. It becomes about ego. It's ego. It's a person not wanting to be proven wrong. It's a person not wanting to feel stupid. It's not about the information, because I have people spend more time trying to make fun of Kemet than to, ask questions about the Bible. So people ask questions about Kemet all the time because they know that's what we follow and what we talk about, but they don't ask questions about how is it possible for a snake and a donkey to talk, or for a man to walk on water and raise people from the dead but can't save himself from a cross, 2 boards and 3 nails. Stuff that they should ask. How is it a person can have superpowers like Elisha? And, it's crazy. God's supposed to be good all the time, but he sends evil spirits, and he tells you clear as day that he is the one who created evil. He creates evil. So the questions that they should ask, they don't ask. The things that's in the Bible that clearly shows you what the book is, they don't want to read or pay attention to. So history, just what is that? History is whatever people believe. So it's information as well. It's what people believe. So popularity is a big deal. We understand this. Our society is based on it. So you make something popular, it's what people are going to believe. And this is all that is. Really, we can call it education. Because education and teaching is just a bunch of people believing the same thing. Not understanding that thing could be a lie. It could be false. And those teachings could be false. And it could be an agenda behind those teachings, but everybody knows it. Everybody got the same teaching. So when we come together, talk about it or to understand it, then somebody comes along and say, no, that's not how it happened. That's not true. Then, of course, the majority is going to rule and make that person look crazy when the person is telling the truth. And this has been the effect over time, slowly, until eventually we are where we are today. But, for my black people, black folks, we got our Bible during slavery. Before that, yes, we did get the Ethiopian Bible, but it's not older than the Greek Bible. It was still given to us by white folks. And it was given to us to infiltrate our land and steal gold, steal resources. This is what they did. Plain and simple. If it was about Christianity and these people actually cared about Africans, we wouldn't see what we see in Africa today. We wouldn't see what we're seeing in America, now. It's not about Christianity or Christian values or anything like that. So why are we still following this religion when it has done nothing for us? And, your relatives and ancestors all died waiting on this Jesus who never was here in the first place and is never coming back. You sitting up there, making decisions about something you know nothing about really, that hasn't been proven to be true, and changing your life. I mean, Christianity takes away from your experience here. So why would you invest that kind of time into something you don't understand or hasn't been proven to be true? And that's all we're saying. as conscious people, we're saying that we understand. We've been taught the same thing you've been taught, most of us. We get it, but we're asking questions because stuff don't make sense to us. Just like if, I said this before, if a homeless person comes to you and say, hey, God told me to tell you to give me all your worldly possessions, all your money, your house, car, everything. Give me everything you own. Go out into the wilderness and wait for his message. How many of these so-called Christians you think would do this? They would want proof. Just like when you check $100 bill or $50 bill, somebody wants change, you make sure it's real first. You don't just accept it. But people claim to, just accept Christianity when they really don't. So it makes it a weird thing because people argue down about the Bible and then they don't live by it. And it's like, why are you fighting this hard for something you don't even really follow? Why are you calling yourself something that you're not really? You're not a Christian. You don't, live by the Bible. And then the interpretation of the Bible, which, it's up to interpretation, the laws and the things that the Bible says you can and can't do, people interpret for themselves. And that's how the Bible goes. Well, I believe the Bible says this, or it means this. Or the one I hate the most is, I don't go to church. I don't got to read the Bible because I have a personal relationship with Jesus. Where in order for you to even know about him, you have to read the Bible to understand the relationship that he wants you to have with him. You need to know the commandments. You need to know what the Bible is talking about and the lessons it's trying to teach you before you just walk off and say you accept something that you don't understand. This is what we deal with. So people today getting in Black History Talk and History Talks. What history are we talking about? Because history, the real history, is not being told. And Black people are not accepting the truth. We're accepting what's been given to us to be docile and to make us feel like we have a place somewhere where we know we don't. So, February 1st, getting into Black History Month for always, it's stupid shit. It's world history, global history, American history, whatever you want to call it. It's something that, everybody needs to understand, and they don't talk about their history. We don't see European History Month or anything like that. You got to watch cable and see World War II history, Veterans Day and, Memorial's Day. This is their history. History is full of conquest, war, genocide, murder, rape, so on and so forth. But they don't want to get into that. And we talk about Black history, which is the history of what they did to us and why we are where we are today. But, I don't expect people to accept what they don't understand. So this is why I do what I do. But yeah, I thank you guys for taking the time to watch, and thanks to everybody who took advantage of the sale. Make sure you guys do. It's probably going to be down before you finish watching this video. So if you didn't already, you should probably do so because it's probably going to be down in a couple hours. But thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys next video.